Welcome, everybody, to the Manic Monday edition of Uncompromised with Tara with the one and only Denver Riggleman, my good best buddy here. We previewed we were going to do something the other night. I couldn't do it. I was so tired. I just got back from New Orleans, and, it was a time. It was a time.
Well, I mean, New Orleans, there's a special place in my heart because Christine keeps defending her best bourbon title at the New Orleans Bourbon Festival every.
Right. That is right. It is in New Orleans, and I always brag about how you guys are award-winning, and I love that your hooch mama of a wife keeps winning these awards because your bourbon is fantastic. Shout
It
out
is.
to Silverback Distillery down there in Afton, Virginia. If you're ever down in the area, please go and visit Denver and his wife.
Oh, thanks, Tara. Oh, my heart is full. And also in the Poconos. East Stroudsburg, too.
That's
Yeah.
right, the Poconos. I was going to say, for the folks in Pennsylvania that aren't down in Central Virginia,
That's right.
station in the Poconos, and your honey whiskey, the honey bourbon there, is our favorite in our family. My mom is a particular fan as well, and she keeps a stash in her dresser drawer in case we ever run out of it, like we did at the Christmas party last year, and it was a big hit. So
You never want to run out of honey rye.
no, we got to come. We're out now. Actually, we are overdue to come down and see you guys. I'll be down there in a couple weeks because I got stuff to do at UVA, and so anytime I'm down in Charlottesville, I try to come see you guys. So we're long overdue.
It is appreciated. And I also have trunk deliveries. I can transport liquor in the trunk of my vehicles.
Well, next time
In
you're
the
up
back
this
seat.
way, do not say what town, then. But next time you're up this way, we will need to make this happen. It's enough. I miss you. It's been a while.
It's been too long. Too long. Yes.
So, this is when we get together again, talking about a time. It's always a good time when Denver and I get together. But unfortunately, usually when we get together like this, it's because some shit popped off, something crazy that the Trump administration has done. And Denver, in his other hats that he wears, besides being the husband of a hooch mama, he's also a former congressman and a data cybersecurity extremism expert and all the things. And his company and his team, they were on the January 6th committee and uncovered all kinds of data. The text messages and emails and the things that were going on there for January 6th when you guys all watched the hearings a couple of years ago. Denver's team was responsible for the majority of that. So we're going to talk about some January 6th stuff since the 5-year anniversary is tomorrow. But we're going to talk Venezuela first because I'm still trying to process that this is actually happening. Okay, that the Trump administration did this over the weekend in the dead of night with not telling anyone. Apparently, Trump told the oil executives and gave them the heads up, and probably his handlers in Russia, but didn't tell the Congress and didn't let people who should know ahead of time that they were about to launch this extraction operation. And we all woke up to it on Saturday. And like I said, I was in New Orleans. So Friday night, New Orleans, we were having a very good time. I was trying to escape for just a couple days before the New Year started and we got back to work. But no, we can't.
No.
We can't have nice things when this freaking guy is president. We just can't. So we woke up to this den, and as did most of us, going, what the actual fuck just happened? And I know that you last night on your Denver After Dark, and folks, subscribe to Denver on Substack. If you're not, go check them out on Denver After Dark. And you talked to Colonel Layton about this last night.
I did.
And I had some thoughts about this because immediately I thought of, we're doing this, has nothing to do with drugs. This has to do with the oil and other things going on there. And I did a whole thing on Saturday, a quick thing about Paul Singer, and as a billionaire Trump supporter who's a vulture capitalist who specializes in going into countries with distressed assets and gobbling them up at pennies on the dollar. And then he makes lots of money off of it. And he just so happened to obtain Citco. Okay.
He did. I saw that.
And so for $6.7 billion, when it's actually valued at closer to 17 or 18 billion. So again, he got a deal on this. And I just said, somebody on Twitter had mentioned, like, did you see this? And I went, oh my God, that's right. And then it sent me down a rabbit hole. And Donald Trump basically admitted a couple hours later, like, yeah, it's about the oil. It wasn't about drug trafficking. It's all a bunch of bullshit.
I
So
think
your thoughts, please, my friend.
Yeah, we have a complicated relationship with Venezuela. I don't know if people remember this, but back in 2000 and 2001, the Republican Bush administration was accused of supporting the coup attempt against Chavez through the National Endowment for Democracy, right? And that was about the time, as you know, I was heading overseas after 9/11, and I was in the Middle East in 2000. But also, a lot of people don't know when I was at the Counterterrorism Mission Management Center, we also looked at stuff in South America, specifically when hostages were taken, drug cartels. I had to learn, I had to be an expert on the FARC too and other types of organizations.
On the what?
Um,
So that people may not
the
know what
FARC, the FARC, they can Google it. Yeah, I'm sorry, it wasn't the fart, it's the FARC, okay? So, I was tracking terrorists on mules, right? Bad guys on asses. So, doing a lot of that. And I think when I saw that it happened, I wasn't necessarily surprised because it sort of was announced in the Project 2025 report that Venezuela needed to be taken, and we also needed to start something called rehemisphering. Which really goes back to us just controlling our hemisphere and being laissez-faire about others. So that's probably why we don't care much about Ukraine, what's going on there, and
right.
who knows if we would protect Taiwan. So I know a lot of people talked about this the past 3 or 4 days,
Yeah.
but I do wanna say something about the messaging here. It's very difficult for Marco Rubio to say we're going after drug traffickers. First of all, after he pardoned, the Honduras president, but I think people forget
Orlando Hernandez.
Hernandez, but I think people forget about Ross Ulbricht Road, right? And the myriad other people that he has actually pardoned. And then he comes out after everybody's trying to rationalize this as a drug taking, and he comes out and says, no, 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 this is about the oil
Right.
and the resources, right? And
This is why
so,
I start out loud all the time. All the time.
absolutely.
He always does it. Trump always does it. I don't know why people don't believe him when he says things. I mean, he is a liar, but he's also like got no filter. When he's telling us what he plans to do, he telegraphs it all the time. And this was another thing. He just telegraphs it because he doesn't care. And he's senile.
Well, narcissists want to brag,
Right.
right? And they also don't want to keep a secret about how smart they are when he had nothing to do with the amazing military execution that happened, right? That operation was incredible. And the thing for somebody like me who knows what a bad actor Maduro is, it goes back to almost Saddam Hussein. Nobody was mad we took Saddam Hussein out, but the reason we did caused a cascading effect of issues for decades.
That's right.
And as somebody who does know a bit about foreign policy and traveled to South America to study the Chinese dominance over us in Panama, Argentina, Peru, and Costa Rica, I went there as a congressional delegation to investigate it. This is not that surprising, and I wonder. So I know it was done for the wrong reasons
Hmm.
to get a bad guy. So it puts a lot of people in this weird place where it's like we got actually a threat of boots on the ground. We actually have a possibility that contractors like the grandchildren of Blackwater and places like Halliburton can make billions of dollars, millions and billions of dollars in the restructuring. You have the donor class under Trump that is going to be enriched through this. And how does this really benefit the American people? Are we going to pay a nickel less in gas? People are like, oh, we're going to have less gas prices. Hold on. The infrastructure costs for building are going to be magnificently high. So is there subsidization on here where American taxpayer monies are going to be used to help rebuild Venezuela? We don't know. So these are the kind of things when you're looking at it from a policy perspective, America still needs to do things for the right reasons. We might say Maduro is an evil guy that needed to be taken. But on the other hand, we know that he was taken for a show. And now America is in this point where people died for maybe an immoral act against an immoral person. And is it that just politics? Is that just the way it is? That's the way it can't be.
Right.
We have to be transparent and good in the way that we do things. So I've been having this bizarre thing like, God, I feel like I'm back in 2002 again, 2003. Like I'm having this weird deja vu because I'm old. So, and I've seen a lot. So there you go. That's my first take on Venezuela.
Well, I mean, first of all, for those who don't know, you were also in the military. You're an Air Force veteran and you served in the NSA. And like Denver, a lot of people, they see this side of you, like, we're playful, we joke around or whatever, but Denver is a certified badass and he knows what he's talking about. So when we talk about these things, we're able to, yes, bring a little bit of a lighter touch to it in the conversation, but it's also serious, serious stuff. And he knows what he's talking about, which is why
Thanks.
these conversations are so important because other people, I think they either just give you kind of like the very serious, like here are the facts, blah blah blah, or they make light of it because they don't really know what they're talking about. And they're just bloviating to just bloviate, and they don't know what they're talking about. Here you get a combination of being able to present it in a way that doesn't make you want to just give up, but you also learn. And that's part of why we do this and why I really value these conversations with you, Den, because we can joke about it, but we're also bringing people information to make sure that they are fully informed and that they have more context about what's actually happening beyond just the headlines, beyond what the mainstream media is talking about. Like what you just talked about and the way that we preface this about who's going to profit, the context of the geopolitical consequences with China and their presence in Central and South America. That's been going on, by the way, for 25 years. Since China got permanent normal trade relations, that opened up the door for China to come into our hemisphere and really um in like quietly but not really create this sphere of influence competing with us in places that the US wasn't paying attention to, whether it was rebuilding in the Caribbean after hurricanes, whether it was what was happening with the Panama Canal and even the LA ports, the ports in LA and them having, buying up terminals there through American subsidiaries. Like and what's going on in South America now. Like most people don't have any idea that this stuff was going on and this is all related. It's all related. And now we've got the the Russian influence through Venezuela. You have what's going on with what Fiona Hill testified about back in 2019, which I'm sure you remember,
I
about
do.
all part of the plan. Like there's so many layers to this, and the mainstream media isn't really talking about this. Yes, they're highlighting, okay, what the military operation was a great success, and that's great, and that's true. We have the best military in the world for now, but at least we can still do that right, at least. But nobody's questioning that. But to your point, Denver, to your point, then, that just because they're using the Maduro being a bad guy and a dictator and his illegitimacy as the president of Venezuela as a cover to make money for the billionaire donors and Donald Trump's people and him and his family somehow, they're going to get rich in here somewhere with the rebuilding.
Sure.
Same thing with what's going on in the Middle East with Gaza. Same thing with what's going on with Ukraine. Look at the people who are negotiating these things. They're not career diplomats. They're real estate people, okay? They're businessmen. Follow the money. Follow the freaking money. And then like you said, are we going to occupy Venezuela now? Who pays for this? Is this America first? Last time I checked, as of January 1st, millions of Americans are getting priced out of their health care. But we have
But
money
they might pay a nickel a gallon less for gas.
Venezuela on a false premise because it was never about the drugs. Because if it were, we wouldn't have pardoned a drug smuggler, narco terrorist from Honduras just a month and a half ago. That blew up the narrative right there. But I also talked about the real reason behind that, which had to do with his tech bros. The tech bro guys, it was a favor to them because Honduras has one of their network state experiments going on off the coast of Honduras in Prospera, which is very dangerous and very weird. And if people look it up, holy shit, that's what those bros want to bring to the US and to our subsidiaries and to Greenland, by the way. That also has something to do with the tech bro utopia network state shit. Greenland is part of that as well. They have their eyes on that, plus the resources and, of course, what Russia wants to do with Greenland. And that's a whole other thing. But it's all connected, Den. It's all connected. And it's bigger than what the mainstream media is just telling people. Nobody's talking about this.
Yeah, and it's usually always the same people, and that's the thing I think people are starting to get turned on to. And I asked somebody the other day, and this is pretty fascinating when you talk about the tech bros because it's almost like the Curtis Yarvin,
Yeah.
Peter Thiel,
Oh,
right?
not all. Oh, not almost. It is.
It is,
It
being a
is.
little, yeah. I'm trying to ease in. You know what I mean? I'm trying to ease in, with everybody right now because I know a
Oh,
little bit
boy.
about.
Ease
Yeah, just
my ass. We go right for it. There's no easing into this.
so well, why we shouldn't talk about prom, but you know, I think when I was talking to a Republican friend of mine who is an anti-Trump Republican, but was absolutely enthralled about Maduro because of Maduro's abuses. And we had a hell of a conversation. He goes, Denver, what if it provides stability to the region? And it's a good question. The issue that you have though is that if it's under false pretenses or if we don't have a long-term plan with my military background, past performance is indicative of future performance. And when you look at the decision making of this administration, has it ever been competent? Are they making any decisions based on the democratic principles of the United States or on where we should be? No. And so the conversation went from yes, there could be immediate benefit. I want to tell people on here there could be like an immediate benefit where they're going to pound their chest and say, look how good we did. And think about the Iranian bombings, right? When you're talking about the nuclear facilities, which didn't do anything. That was a pimple on a hog's ass. There's still that, right? That was for show because it seems like Donald Trump wants to get in and out without doing the hard policy work down the line. So when I look at something like Venezuela, I can honestly say Maduro being gone on its face, good thing.
Right.
But if you don't take out the other four people working for him, what did we do there? Replace dictator for dictator,
Which
right?
is what's
Where's the
happening right
decision?
now. Which is what happened. What's happening right now.
What what happened?
Right? It's not like they worked with the opposition party. They didn't work with Machado because he's got a bug up his ass because she won the Nobel Peace Prize over him. So there, he just
It
completely
threw her under the bus.
that's right, threw her under the bus, completely delegitimized her. So that tells me also that the next plan either was we'll figure it out, or they've got something much more nefarious planned here with the current vice president, who's just Maduro's shadow. It's the same operation here. But that's kind of why, and you can speak to this too, why Marco Rubio looked like he got smacked around yesterday on the
He
Sunday.
got smacked around.
I mean,
He
he looked like he's like he didn't want to be there because he understands. Because Marco Rubio, despite the fact that he is completely sold out, he's not dumb. He understands these things. He used to be on the right side of these issues when he was a senator and sane. And it's not like he doesn't know, but he still has to try to go out there and somehow explain away what this president is doing, even though it's hypocritical and he knows it's bullshit. But he looked like we're not sure what we're gonna. I'm not running it. No, 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 not me. It's the Department of Defense that's running it. Like not me. That tells me, Den, they don't. I don't know what their plan is now moving forward, and this is where it gets very ugly and scary. Because how can this person, whoever you were talking to, how can they actually say with a straight face that they believe that the Trump administration had a well thought out plan, post action plan after they did this part?
I think that they believe, and it's a great question. I think they believe that it really is the infrastructure build from the private sector that's going to do it. And I'd
Oh,
and I'd have to I'd have to humbly submit that'd be very difficult. Because who has to deal with this downstream is the next administration, theoretically. Um, because there could be a short term where there's money being pumped in there by private organizations, but the issue is we're also expending massive military resources all over the world. What is it, 8 different areas now in the 1 year that we've actually attacked? What happens if Russia decides to even expend more resources into Ukraine simultaneously while China becomes more aggressive in the South China Sea? We're looking at North Korea shooting missiles over towards Japan. What happens if state-sponsored terrorism all of a sudden starts to bloom also? Say a new bloom of Shia militia groups that are being funded by Iran. And when you look long term at these military types of issues, you know who the happiest people are right now? And people are like, "Oh, Russia's oil got cut off, China's oil." Again, if you go back to Fiona Hill, it looks like there's a swap for Venezuela and Ukraine. They still want to get the resources of Ukraine. China really wasn't hurt that bad. Venezuela is part of their Belt and Road investment portfolio, but they still have the rest of South America.
that is correct.
and so I'm and Africa. If you're looking at Nigeria, I don't even want to go into that too. So that isn't about Christians, by the way,
Oh,
everybody.
I know. You don't have to tell me.
So
You should, because most people probably don't. I actually
really,
Nigeria until just now because I mean,
I'm sorry. I didn't want to bring this up too, but all of this. But if folks go look at Project 2025, this everything you're seeing in Africa with resource gain, and also in South America with Venezuela specifically mentioned, this is a heritage foundation driven operation. So if you want to see what's happening next, go read Project 2025. It'll tell you downstream how they want to actually secure the supply chains. It's called about re-hemisphering. Look at that. And
yeah,
are we becoming a hemisphere isolationist country, which is a really weird thing to think about. You
yes,
think Monroe Doctrine, maybe we're becoming hemispheric isolationists. I came up with that term based on what Harry's saying. So anyhow, sorry, I went a little bit too deep there. I apologize, but that's some of the things that it's the long-term effect of bad decisions because stupidity is terminal.
that's that's right. And I think you should market that. Please put that on a hat or a t-shirt because it is one of your most profound quips that my mom always says. She goes, "Oh my God, Denver always has something good to say that just hits you," and that's one of them. That
Thanks.
stupidity is terminal, and we see this being played out every single day with this administration. And as I said a few minutes ago, this is all there are so many layers to this, and this is all connected, interconnected in one big way. Then it all leads back to this ain't good for democracy, and it's not good for our country. It's not good for our alliances and our strategic partnerships around the world. This is literally, and I tweeted this, that the repercussions of this act are far and wide, both domestic and internationally. This literally could lead to a complete reorganization of the world order, and not in a good way. Not in a
Mm.
good way.
Well, the trust factor of the United States is diminished every day.
Yeah.
Um, from our allies and people like that. And I think that's the other thing that bothers me about this is that we have a impulsive, delusional president making decisions, and those decisions could look um, almost okay temporarily based on the professionalism and technology we have in our military and for the last few that are running some of these operations. And I just want to tell everybody who's listening, your friends don't care. They're only going to care if our soldiers start getting killed, troops on the ground,
Yeah.
right? Or you're looking at such a massive resource drain, it starts to affect the U.S. economy, which the U.S. economy is already sort of crap anyway. So that's really what's going on. Is people are going to care more about their healthcare being lost, I think, right now, and more about the Epstein files in Venezuela.
And I think that we have the capacity to care about more than one thing. Like, you know what I mean? Because all of these things matter and they're all equally as important under different democratic auspices here. You know what I'm saying? Like each one of these things has such a profound impact on the future of our democratic republic here that we've got, our constitutional republic. It does matter what's happening in Venezuela. It does matter with what they're covering up on the Epstein files. It does matter that the economy is teetering, that it's not as healthy as they think. Just because the stock market has gone through the roof, that doesn't only 40% of the American people have 401ks. And what's keeping the stock market boosted is AI. And more than one economist is looking at this going, this looks like a bubble. We're not, it's kind of very like 2000s tech bubble thing going on here, and other sectors are being hurt by Donald Trump's Gestapo tactics with immigration. We are a global economy. We need labor. What we're doing with immigration is a travesty. Nobody's saying that we didn't need to fix problems. Nobody's saying that the border didn't need to be fixed, but you don't do it this way. It's another example. You don't do it this way because then it has downstream effects on due process, which is a constitutional right, which is under threat. It's downstream problems with civil liberties, which is a problem when you start violating them in what's supposed to be a free and fair society. But the people who are like, oh, the drug dealers and the cartels and the bad hombres or whatever bullshit cover story they gave for why they're doing this, That was the cover. They don't care. It was to undermine our civil rights here and our due process so Trump can institute the Insurrection Act or martial law or whatever the hell he wants to do. So
The
that,
Aliens Enemies Act of 1798.
right, the sedition acts and all of this stuff, like all right, you're bringing all this stuff back into it so that, Stephen Miller can get a hard on watching immigrants getting detained. It's
Ooh,
disgusting. Him and his wife.
that's a visual.
Ugh.
Well, I mean, again, when you talk about Darius incompetent, delusional, you talk about Katie Miller putting up, the U.S. flag over Greenland.
Oh,
Um,
like,
listen, people think we're nuts. I don't think people inside the U.S. maybe are thinking what the rest of the world's looking at us right now, and we look like the bully that failed fifth grade 4 times and has a bazooka and is stealing people's milk money with it. That's pretty much what we look like right now to the rest of the world, and that stuff. Eventually, somebody's gonna have to deal with this. It's not going to be Trump. He'll be dead. In 5 to 7 years at this rate, I don't know where we're going to be geopolitically. I don't know where we're going to be as a country. I don't know where we're going to be at rule of law. And really, I guess, really that pimple really burst, back in J6, and we're still living in that post J6 sort of craziness, from what I can see.
it's very true. And, I think that when people say, like when you say, oh, no one's going to care, it's our job to make them understand why they should care, why this matters, why what's happening in Venezuela, just because it happened to a bad guy, how you get there matters. This whole, well, it's, who cares about it's just a means to an end. Who cares how you got there? No, no. I'm old enough to remember when Republicans used to criticize that. I'm old enough to remember.
We're old.
I know. I listen, I admit how long it took me to recover from New Orleans reminds me that I'm older than I look or feel sometimes. But I
You're
was like,
definitely older than you look. I
"Oh,
mean,
thank you." But it's,
yes, I said that right. Yeah, I said that right. I said
yeah. Um, but yeah, no, it's like it's sometimes it's just overload. It's overload with where we are because we live and breathe this. And so, but I think it's important that we share our knowledge and our experiences with regular folks who are looking to understand what is happening. What is the context? Why should I even care? Who cares? Freaking Venezuela, they killed, they didn't kill, they, depose a dictator. That's their problem. No, like yeah, but no, you should care because it cascades down. It has downstream effects on lots of things that ultimately come to our day-to-day freedoms and our democratic norms. Like, it matters because he also said in this torrent, because now Donald Trump is on a high, right? He's like you said, he's like the fifth grade bully who's got a bazooka that no one's gonna tell him he can't use it. And now he's discovered he can use it, and it's like duck and cover. What do you do now? He literally said that he's going to bring National Guard troops back into cities under the Insurrection Act.
it's
He said this in the last, what, 24 hours, 48
Rick Charles.
hours when he was on Air Force One. He said this, and people just kind of shrugged this shit off. No. I was in New Orleans, there was National Guard on the streets there. I didn't really see them too much. I only saw them on the last day, but it doesn't matter. It's still him trying to desensitize the American people to having military troops on our streets. If I can get away with blowing boats up in the Caribbean against international law, so what? We're taking out bad guys. If we can get away with putting active duty National Guardsmen and military on the streets of our cities and using them as training grounds, well, it's to get rid of the bad guys. So crime is down. So why should you be upset about it? It's all to desensitize us, and I worry that people become desensitized, just like with January 6th.
Totally
No
desensitized.
real accountability. Donald Trump paid no price for January 6th. And that's thanks to Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy and every other Republican that was too fucking cowardice to go through with what they needed to do to remove him. Okay? They should have removed him. At least the Congress did their part and impeached him. But, you couldn't get a couple more senators to grow some balls and do the right thing. We wouldn't be here right now.
Well, they'd lose their election, Tara. Come on. They don't want to lose their elections. I mean, this is what they live for, right? Is getting the first reservation at the Capitol Grill.
Ugh,
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. The pen is the pen, right? Whether you're a senator or a House member, it's that pen. It doesn't matter about your constituency. It matters about your fundraising and your polling and make sure your favorables are up because you're a Trump supporter in red districts. And you could say tribalism, it happens on both sides, and people will tell me that. I get it. But really, Republicans are in a hold my beer moment right now when it comes to, not caring about the Constitution much. But I do want to give some hope. Can I give some hope to folks?
of course.
I, I think even with when you're looking at MAGA and you're looking at the administration, I think somebody might have heard this on TV yesterday when I said it. I think there is something cumulative about the damage that's being done to the constituency or the base of Trump. I think there's three things, three comorbidities I was talking about. The first comorbidity being the Epstein files.
Yes.
Remember, MAGA is inherently conspiratorial. Remember QAnon, right? You're talking about they thought it was Democrats and things like that. Well, Epstein, listen, QAnon's a crazy conspiracy theory, but Epstein's about as close as you're going to get to it, right? So there's that. And Trump's right defending that.
No blood being extracted and
Right. There's no adrenochrome being,
right.
but
But there
um,
was international trafficking of children. They
children. I mean,
But most conspiracy theories have a little ounce of truth to them. That's why people.
some that's right. I mean, there's a conspiracy theory that I'm better looking than Brad Pitt. Then secondly, I think, it's crazy. There's a little bit of truth there, a little bit of truth, I tell you, but the second thing, I think the second comorbidity is the healthcare crisis and the economy as one lump. I think that's a comorbidity. I think it's cutting into the base of support, which you see in polling.
Yep.
The third is this: MAG is inherently nationalist. So when he's starting all these multiple conflicts, eventually those who are like, "How are you helping these other countries when you're not helping my grandma?" That stuff's going to fricking come back to get him. So that's why I think there's going to be a 35 to 45 seat change in the House in 26. But I don't know how much it's going to affect. I don't know if the Democrats still have the bravery to do what they need to do because Trump is still going to rule by fiat. So it's going to be interesting in this clash. But hopefully, hope's not a viable course of action. I know, but I do hope there's a batch of Democrats that say, listen, we got to go back to constitutional principles. We got to go back to the fact that listen, we can talk about means and ends and means. But really, what we need to talk about are people and taking care of our constituents and a constitutional basis on the rule of law. That has to be, I think, their directed line.
That
Anyway,
1,000%, because that is part of the strategy here going into now that we're in 2026, going into these midterms, is that Democrats have got to stay on message. And the message always has to be brought back to how it impacts us as Americans, how it impacts us every day in our everyday lives, no matter what it is. That's what Republicans did, even though they were lying to people and they were demagoguing issues constantly and using fear and fear of the other and fear of the other coming for you and all of these other horrible things to get people riled up. But politics is inherently emotional. And when they say, oh, politics is local, that's because your local issues impact you every day more than big national issues. And people feel that. Politics is about how people feel. It's not even about what's true or what's right, oftentimes, unfortunately. It's about how people feel. And so if Democrats can't rally people into understanding that people need to feel like we've got to change this or else, or this is an existential threat to me, legitimately though, legit, then they're not going to capitalize on this to get us into a position to try to wrestle our country back from this brink, because we are on the brink, but we can get it back because we saw the glimmers of hope of what happens when people start paying attention. November happened, and an off year. Of course, I always say there's no such thing as an off year, especially in this day and age. There is no such thing as an off year, but off year, right? That people came out in record numbers in special elections and in little elections, whether it was dog catcher or a city council member, city council elections in South Carolina, wherever the hell, where Republicans were losing left and right because they were too busy following in Donald Trump's crazy footsteps, and they're not doing their actual jobs to make the American people's lives better. And people are going, whoa, fuck that. That's not what we signed up for. This split with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Trump, I said, is like the Fort Sumter of civil wars right here. That was the first shot. And we're starting to see these fractures within because of the America First agenda. I mean, Steve Bannon compared Trump to Hillary Clinton and Samantha Powers the other day. Like, I mean, he was like, "Did Hillary Clinton and Samantha Powers show up at Mar-a-Lago and, like, drug Trump?" You know what I mean? And that was before Venezuela.
Listen, people are saying it, and by the way, don't forget about the gubernatorial elections in New Jersey and Virginia, right? Massive margin of victory. Yeah, I think what's that?
No, I said that matters. It shows that people are paying attention and that they're going, "We didn't sign up for this crazy. We were promised that our lives would be better, that the prices of eggs would be down, and that, the bad hombres on the streets would be gone, not our neighbors and our neighbors' kids and, our coworkers and our communities being terrorized by Gestapo jerk-offs in masks and the losers that couldn't get jobs at real law enforcement agencies are now getting hired by ICE, going out here kidnapping people off the streets. Like, we didn't sign up for that. Maybe 20-30% of the country did, but the majority of the country did not. So what are we going to do about it?
I tell you, when 70% of the public is polling against any type of conflict in Venezuela, that is a huge indicator.
Yep.
When you fall under 38% favorability rating, like
Yep.
Trump is, huge indicator. When you're looking at all these swing districts turning D plus when they were R plus, huge indicator. And you're looking at some states fighting back on redistricting. If you look at California and Virginia, where I'm at right now, they're
Mhm.
fighting back on the Texas redistricting and things of that nature. So some of this is that'll come out in the wash, as you know. Redistricting and gerrymandering is awful, but now it's one on one. We only have two parties, which I think that's a big part of the problem. Is our two party system is completely fragmented and broken. However, it is what it is.
Right.
It is what it is.
Yep.
People are going to, you got to fight on the battlefield you got.
That's right. Play the game that you're in, okay? You gotta play the game that you're in, because if you start trying to play by other rules or a different game that you're not in, guess what? That's not going to work. And that, I think, took Democrats a little time to kinda wake up to, because they were playing like Chuck Schumer's playing by a playbook that doesn't exist anymore. Like, that game is gone. And so it's why he's not up for the challenge. I mean, like, he's laughably not up for the challenge. Hakeem Jeffries shows glimmers of hope here and there when he starts to, like, wake up. I always joke, I want more Brooklyn, less Beltway. Like, I need Brooklyn Hakeem every day. I don't need Beltway Hakeem, who's too cautious and is thinking about his words and, like, preaching a sermon. I need Brooklyn Hakeem every single day if he's going to step up and be the next speaker of the house, because it's in him. We see glimmers of it. And, like, that's the mode he needs to stay in all the time. But the people are, I think, finally starting to realize that no one's going to come and save us but us. And
It's true.
we just cannot afford to sit back and think somebody else is going to do it. Because look what happens. Mitch McConnell didn't move forward with going after removing Trump because, well, A, he's a coward, but B, he thought somebody else was going to do it. We'll let the Department of Justice and they'll handle it. No, like, you can't. No, you need to do the right thing now. It's now. We don't have the luxury of waiting for somebody else to do it. And which kind of brings us to the January 6th conversation, because I
I
can't.
knew where you were going.
Yes, thank you. I can't believe, Den, that it's been half a decade since that awful day. It
You
feels
know,
it still feels like yesterday a little bit. I mean, it feels far away, but not. You know what I mean? Like, it was just so it was such a visceral reaction for me, like a physical reaction that day. And I just remember it like,
I hate I hate to do this, right? I
"Oh,
hate to
don't,
do
don't.
this.
You wrote a book about your work."
The
And
brain I don't do it. It's been, God, the book came out in September of 22. Even though it was a bestseller. Mhm.
it was September of 2022. It was 3 years ago, Dan?
Yeah, 3 years ago, and, I know it was a bestseller, but, the Democrats and Republicans both hit me because they didn't even understand the data. And now the book is the penultimate book on what happened on January 6th. Now, obviously, we didn't have all the facts yet when I wrote it, but I had enough because when you have the Meadows text messages, when you look at Jenny Thomas, when you have millions of pages of call records, when you build the monster, when you have the metadata. The Oath Keepers are, texting the White House, and the White House is in constant contact with Enrique Tarrio's girlfriend. And when you look at all the stuff that happened there, It's hard not. It's obviously was a coup attempt. I mean, it's stupid not to think so. There were multiple planning vectors that day. I would say there's probably 20 people in the world who know about January 6th as much as I do, maybe,
Mm. Yeah.
right? So, and that's why tomorrow, I think, especially for all the people, I'm going to read a selected section of text messages from congressional members, the Meadows texts, starting at 1 p.m. tomorrow. People should actually come on and see it. I think you might help me.
I
I don't want to.
I
Okay,
will be
so
there. I will be there to do a dramatic reading of some of these texts, and you'll just have to wait and see whose texts I read.
well, I definitely have somebody in mind, as you know, but
I
some of the
know.
people on there, I think people are going to want to see what Don Jr. was texting that day. I think people are going to see, what Scott Perry might be texting that day, and some of the insane things that were said in some territorial nature of our congressional members, public figures. Now, there's 2,319 text messages, and I was going to try to read them all, but that's literally impossible with the context. It would take me 5 days. Plus, I'd have to make sure that even though they've been released through other media outlets, which wasn't me, to be honest, but it's incredible to me that it's all out there. People look for it. I think through TPM, Hunter Walker, but some other people had them like secondhand that were copied, and I'm like, some of them weren't even up to date that were leaked. I'm like, don't do that, right?
Mhm.
There's only one guy who has the latest version, right? And this guy, right? At that time, right?
Right.
But I think by reading some of these where things that have already been released, I think I need to remind people how insane it was, and I think a lot of people don't even know what's in it. And again, I hate to say this, but a lot more context if you read my book, The Breach. No, but I mean, but the thing is that I did contextualize it in there, but I can't read them all. But I picked 9 or 10 special people, and we're going to read those 9 or 10 special people. That I'm going to do it because Venezuela is even part of the text messages in a way with the National Endowment of Democracy through Scott Perry, because the
Mhm.
Heritage Foundation thought the NED was a Democrat run, specifically, right? Um, Undercover organization by the taxpayers that was far left. And it was the NED that was accused by working with the Bush administration to overthrow Chavez. Think about this. So, it's crazy stuff in the text messages, and you'll see why every single person in January 6th, every single person there that day cheering Donald Trump was lied to, wrong, credulous, a grifter, or stupid.
Yeah.
There's nobody there who was there for the right reason because this election wasn't stolen. Anybody who stormed the Capitol that day, they were there for no other reason than they were lied to, stupid, credulous, grifters, or just plain out criminals, with the recidivism rates being through the roof by people who are pardoned by Donald Trump. So people need to be re-blued, as we say in the military. And there is one guy who can re-blue them, and there's one woman I know who can re-blue them, and they're both on here. So let's re-blue people, read the text messages out, and look at the shocking portion of it. And let me give some context to some of those text messages.
Yes, absolutely. And for those asking in the chat, it's Eastern time. We don't want to sell folks in other time zones short by repeating what it is, but we're both on the East Coast. So anytime we say a time, it defaults to Eastern. So get
Yes,
on the clock
yes.
Eastern time, guys.
And it
Sorry.
It
But
will be Substack and YouTube and maybe multiple channels. Other people want to do it live. I'm not going to waste people's time, but because literally, as you know, we could read for hours and hours if we did. It would just be, and some of it is, it really isn't applicable. But this is applicable. People just need to know what people were believing, because it's really not just the criminal acts. It's the fact that every criminal act was pushed by radicalizing elements like the Steve Bannons, like the Rudy Giulianis, like the Roger Stones, the Alex Jones, the Mike Flynns,
yep.
the Sidney Powells, right on down the line, the Patrick Burns, Mike Lindell's, the Phil Waldrons, the Donald Trumps.
And they've all escaped justice because Donald Trump was reelected and pardoned all of them. And
Yes.
it's just it is sickening. It's sickening. It makes my blood boil in ways that's hard to even put into words, because not only was that an attack on the heart and the cornerstone of our democracy. And as someone who spent 30 years in this area, who worked on Capitol Hill, Den, you served our country honorably, both in the military and as a member of Congress. Like, this is something that touches us so deeply and like on a level that it's hard to explain. But also, I'm the wife of a federal agent who was actually working that day.
An
In
incredible guy.
Thank you, thank you. And I'm sure he's watching and he'll he loves you too. But, my husband's 25 years as a veteran federal agent who was working earlier that day, who actually called me in the morning to tell me that he just felt something was off. And this was early, it's before everything went south. But I remember him saying to me, this it I feel evil. I feel evil in the air. And I was like, wow, hon, really? And that was at like early in the morning when just the people were kind of milling around and, getting ready to go to the rally beforehand. He was just like, and then he thankfully was off because he was in the early shift and he was on his way home when the violence started. But he very easily could have been in the middle of that in a different iteration of his career. And so watching that unfold on live TV, watching as someone who has been pro law enforcement, back the blue, I bleed blue. My grandfather was a police officer for 40 years, captain of my hometown police department. I I I was horrified by what I was watching and those brave officers who were there defending our capital that day, watching what they went through and then watching what's happened after. Then you and I have become friends with four
Mhm.
of the brave age officers who spoke out, right?
Eric Dunn was in Ukraine with me.
That's right. Harry went to Ukraine with you. What a which I give him credit for because he's a big ass dude and that's a big ass target. So hiding him while you guys were over there dodging drone attacks was something else. But I love Harry. He's a big teddy bear. But watching Harry and Aquilino Ganell and Daniel Hodges and Michael Fanone testify bravely and standing in the breach for their other fellow officers who weren't brave enough or couldn't or had, or didn't make it or have injuries that have ruined their careers to stand up there and do what they did and the price that they paid for it bothers me. It bothers me that these guys were vilified, that their careers were ruined. I mean, Sergeant Ganell, okay, who wrote a book also. I have his book. If you guys don't have his book, it's called The
Great guy.
Field. He is a great guy. He was actually Harry's boss. He's his sergeant at the Capitol Police. He served our country in the military. He was the one who testified that he was so full of bear spray and chemicals that when he went home, he was just thankful he made it home because he didn't think he was going to his wife and his son. And his wife could not hug him or hold him or give him comfort because he said, I'm full of chemicals. I don't want you to get contaminated with it. And he had to retire and leave his job that he loved, his career. And they're all paying the price financially. Yes, they're American heroes, but let me tell you what, Sergeant Ganell has a GoFundMe right now, and I'm going to put it in the chat. It breaks my heart. Like, I'm going to tear up over this, that these guys have to beg for people to help them stay alive and feed their families because they spoke up and defended our country. And this bastard and those insurrectionists got pardoned and are out here running around. These grifters are making millions of dollars, and these guys have to beg through GoFundMes to help feed their families. It's wrong. There's something so wrong with that. I just can't. I'm going to put his GoFundMe in right now
Hope you do. And
because please go help him and whatever you can do, to help these guys and their careers and just make ends meet for them because their service and what they went through and what those officers went through to defend our country, a bunch of ungrateful people oftentimes that take this country for granted, but there's people that are still willing to put themselves literally out there to protect it. regardless of everybody, the other people who don't care about it, we need to do right by them. We need to do right by them. It's
There's so many people will see this. They're watching live now. So many people will see this later, right? As I share it, as it sort of matriculates through the social media, and I hope that they do give to GoFundMe pages, help these individuals. I know Harry really well. Mike, I know pretty well. I mean, I know the jobs that he has gotten to do. And I don't want to say it, right? But I know what he's had to do, and I know the people who've helped him. They're lovely, right? I'm very good friends with them, and so I think that we are at this point. I was fortunate, as you know, that I had sold companies and done things. I have done things where I could absorb some punishment, right? But when you're really all about service, like law enforcement, they can absorb the punishment financially. And that's why they need that help from everybody on here. And my guess is if everybody on here went in and said, well, I'm going to give $10, right? That would be so helpful, to these individuals, or say, I'm going to buy his book. And yeah, obviously the breach is about January 6th, but I'd much rather everybody buy his book than mine. Please, you know, please. I mean, I love the guys.
Yeah. And
It's
that's,
funny.
but then that's what separates you from a lot of other people. Not a lot of other people are willing to do that. And that's why we love you. Oh, go ahead.
Listen, if they go, I would rather people, get my book at a library, read it anyway, borrow a book. Hell, I'm sure people have posted parts of it on the net, right? Freaking steal it. Who gives a shit, right? Steal it from your friend. Go,
And you just
you know,
aggressively borrow it. There you go.
aggressively borrow the breach, aggressively,
Pay for Sergeant Gannell's book,
and
American.
aggressively borrow this
Yes, yes.
one.
I mean, listen,
Breach, breach people's face again.
and Harry
No,
wrote too, Standing Our Ground, and Michael Fanone wrote a book. I forgot the name of his. I have it, and it's over here somewhere. But like, we need to support them everywhere, any way we can. And Gannell's story is actually, he's the only one that's an immigrant out of everyone. He came over from the Dominican Republic and was raised here, but still served his country and still loves America. And he's the American dream right there until the nightmare of January 6th happened. And it's like, it comes from a different, he comes from a different perspective that we should not dismiss the immigrant experience. Most of us came from immigrant families. My family came from Germany, Italy, and Guatemala, actually. Right. So, I'm a 20th century immigrant story here. I don't know, Dad. Did your family came from the backwoods somewhere? They've been here for a while, haven't they?
my family immigrated from West Virginia.
Yeah.
But I mean, ours came over in Germany, France, the Iberian Peninsula, back in 1760s. My wife, her family's been here since 1611. Um, she's part of the Carter Family Society. But the thing is that we're all immigrants. And that's just the way it is. I want to tell, I know tomorrow's going to be crazy. I don't know how people react. Hell, it might be a wet fart, right? People might not care anymore. And I get that, right? It's 5 years later. The book's been out. I can't believe it's the only book written on the date over on the.
I can't either. I just, I don't know. This whitewashing a history here with this, and it was literally an attempted coup in America. And how are we? They won't put up the plaque, right? I have that. It's federal law to put up a plaque acknowledging what happened that day. And those fucking bastards over there, those Republicans and Mike Johnson and those motherfuckers won't put it up. Like, how dare they? You know what I mean? Like, I just
know.
can't. I have no patience for them. They are a bunch of insurrectionist bastards, and that they just freely flaunt it. And they're out here. You see some of these January 6th fuckers that are out here. There was some crazy guy that was in front of the APAC yesterday in DC screaming about, calling, oh my God, he's a Nazi, throwing up the Nazi sign and saying that APAC is turning our country into a bunch of N lovers and all of this. And this was somebody that the president of the United States fucking pardoned, Denver. Pardon this guy. He's just one of hundreds of others of these pieces of shit. And meanwhile, our heroes, guys like Sergeant Donnell and Mike Bonone and Harry Dunn and Daniel Hodges, have to scrape to get by, or they have to worry about their lives being in danger. That I mean, it is unspeakable, but it's part of the upside down world that MAGA and Trump has thrust us into, that we have got to get out of it. And I want a shameless plug. If you're in the DC area tomorrow, Jim Acosta is doing a town hall with the officers, with our buddies there, and some others. I think Miles Taylor and some of those others that folks. I'll be there as well. It's at the National Press Club. I think there's tickets available for it. National Press Club's not that big, but he's also live streaming it. So there,
Right.
so Jim is doing something tomorrow. I think it's from 5 to 7. I need to find actually I can put it in the chat, but
So people can tune in and they will have all that ammunition when I read some of those text messages, the selected text messages at 1 p.m. And we'll see how it goes. I'm a little bit. It's not nervous. I really think I don't know if I'm right on this. I really think maybe nobody. It's just going to be 7 people like hey. And I think that's probably, that could possibly happen, but I do think it's very important to have it out there for the public. And I did. I tell you, I was just looking at, I could look at any book in here, but I went through the text so much in the book, right? All the contextual stuff. And it just scared the hell out of me when I was rereading my own book today. I'm like, that happened? What the hell?
no,
But I'm like, oh, that's right. I remember that I put that together because this is me, and Hunter, and I said, oh my god, but it's just incredible. When you see the stuff on Dominion Systems, I think people are going to be like, oh dear God, and I think this is what we're gonna. It's just going to be crazy what I read tomorrow. It's not going to be all of them, but I think it'll be enough where people get a really good sense of
yeah.
what's happening.
And look, here's the thing, and you always undersell yourself. So I'm here to make sure you stop that. But even if 7 people tuned in live, things live forever on the interwebs.
That's right. That's
They
right.
live forever
That's
on
right.
the internet. You can cut and clip parts of this, and people can share it on social media. We do have the ability to freely do that still for now. Maybe the algorithm won't like it, but when there's lots of people, you can still share it to your Facebook, share it to your friends, send it to your MAGA uncle and go, yeah, this is your and then I mean, you don't have to worry about any holidays, any family holidays.
As you know me,
We already got through those. So now you've got a couple more months before you have to see your crazy uncle again. But no, send it out. People, knowledge is power. Truth is our sword. That's why my uncompromised logo is truth with the sword with the truth in it. Like that's it.
I
It's
need to,
so important. It's so
I need,
important that we are armed with that. That is our superpower here.
well, I'll tell you this conversation, listen, Donald Trump was in charge in January 6th. Donald Trump's in charge today. And I think people need to realize that I think there is, you're like, God damn, let me couch this way, right? Oh, shoot. Yeah, I just lost you there. I'm back. I'm back. Oh, gosh. What happened? What happened? What happened? What's going on? What happened to my,
You turned your camera off,
oh,
Dad.
there we go.
There we are.
Did I turn my, I'm an idiot. So here's the thing, right? I think they're still right and wrong. Um, I think people who wanna do the right things, regardless of the whitewashing or regardless of the propaganda, regardless of the gaslighting, hold tight to the facts and the data on what really happened. Don't people push you off. And I wanna tell everybody here, if you do have an argument with somebody about J6 or about things that you know are not factual, just ask them a few questions. Number 1, what's your source? Number 2, what's your data? And number 3, why do you believe what you believe from that source and that data? And when you ask those questions that way, it sort of de-escalates, but it also puts the onus on them to do stupid shit and to say stuff that's usually wrong. And so that's what I ask people, still be good. I sound like a frickin' shaman of the backwoods, but please, you know, be good. Use facts and data and don't be afraid of the bloviating and blustery words of grifters and the credulous and people that's just there to mine people for their own benefit. That's my big thing of the day, I guess.
Your Denver Riggleism of the day between
My Riggleism, my Denverism of the day. My Denver.
your Denverism
Yep.
of the day, that and stupidity is terminal.
Don't let their stupidity be terminal for you, is I guess what I'm telling you.
There you go. That's right.
Yeah.
Our good friend Marcus Flowers just joined. Hi, Marcus. Speaking of others who have done the right thing and stand up for right and wrong and served our country and ran for Congress against Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, by the way, today is her last day in Congress, correct?
Yeah, I mean, she gets her pension.
Oh my God. I just want folks to understand something too before we wrap up. Marjorie Taylor Greene is nobody's hero. Okay. We don't trust her. She's still not invited to the barbecue and probably never will be. However, for people like Den and Marcus and others who understand the value of asymmetrical warfare, when the enemy starts fighting amongst itself, it's good for our side because that means they have to expend time and resources fighting their own. The internecine warfare that MAGA's about to go through, because you're seeing it happen from multiple angles now. The America First folks, women inside MAGA are going, wait a minute, you weren't supposed to subjugate us. You're supposed to make the handmaids out of the other chicks, not us. No, you two bitches, okay? You guys helped to enable this and helped to collaborate with the MAGAs and the Christian nationalists and the Product 2025 guys who think we're all worth nothing more than just being birthing vessels, that we shouldn't have the right to vote, that we need to shut up, sit down and shut up and knit sweaters or whatever the fuck they think we should be doing, this trad wife bullshit. You guys are part of that too. The MAGA mean girls like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nancy Mace and Elise Stefanik and all the other ones that are starting to, fight back and complain that they're not being treated as equal or taken seriously. Yeah, well, guess what? You're part of the problem. So until they all have like legit come to Jesus moments and like take up the political arms and join our side to fight against it, they can all go fuck themselves. But in the meantime, what they're doing though, having to fight each other, let them fight. Because then they are not expending resources fighting us. They have to fight from multiple flanks. So we welcome that kind of asymmetrical warfare happening. Let them fight it out over there. And then maybe they get depressed enough and they don't go and vote. And that allows for a void to be filled. That vacuum will be filled with our side, with the good, because light always conquers darkness. And
God,
that's
I hope so. Even Lauren Boebert's on that train now. Remember, right?
Tommy Lahren.
Yeah, Tommy Lahren. But what happens with Lauren Boebert if she leaves Congress? She's been banned from all the theaters.
Well, there is OnlyFans.
Oh, Farmers Only fan.
Oh my
Well,
God.
but
Dan, it is way too early on a Monday for us to be this excitable, but you know what? It's a manic Monday as always, and you and I together, look out, we're like the 1-2 punch over here.
together forever. So yeah, so it's so good. So yeah, but yeah, I'll see you tomorrow at 1. I'll be in touch, 1 p.m. Guys, reading text messages to see what happens. This could be interesting.
Yeah.
So
Tomorrow's January 6th, and it's a day that we will not let people forget. We will honor our American heroes and those who stood up in the breach, literally, for democracy on January 6th. And Donald Trump and his henchmen can try to rewrite history all they want. We saw it with our own eyes. We saw the truth. And Denver and his intrepid work, him and his team on the January 6th committee, uncovering a lot of the data that was used to help Jack Smith and his indictment. By the way, we didn't really even get into Jack Smith and what he testified to, because it kind of, it ran into the holidays and all the other stuff that was going on that should have been big news about. Basically, they had Trump caught dead to rights, violating the law in multiple fronts with January 6th and trying to overturn the election. And a lot of what his team used came from the work that you guys did on the January 6th committee. So,
probably.
They basically admitted that the January 6th committee's work laid the blueprint for them and kind of helped them go down certain avenues that, you guys kind of did the heavy lifting for them in the beginning. So you are to be commended for that, and you're too humble to take credit for it. But I will give you the credit. People need to know that the role that you played. And on tomorrow, on January 6th, we're not just doing a dramatic reading just for the hell of it. Okay, it's not the Shakespeare theater here. It's so that people understand what happened in the words of the actual people who were engaged in this coup plot against our democracy, so that folks are fired up and ready to go and to get into this fight for 2026 to get our country back. So something like that never happens again.
Amen. Amen. This has been thank you. My heart is warm. And before I leave, could I leave with a dad joke that my kids hate so that everybody here can also tell this joke
Of,
at parties?
of
May
course.
I? Okay, I hope everybody's ready for this joke. And
Wait a minute. Do we need to put in your kids need to turn off, or because
no, this
Denver
is a
dad jokes
dad
go
joke.
either way?
This isn't one of my dirty jokes. This is a literal dad joke that your kids will hate, and you should tell it at every party because your kids will hate you even more. Are you ready?
Ready.
You ready for this? Okay, here we go. What's green and healthy and sings nothing but a hound dog?
What?
Elvis Parsley.
Oh my god. Your next book should be DAD jokes. Denver After Dark.
The dog jokes. I have a billion of them, but I just wanted to leave that. So just remember, everybody, tell your kids tonight, tell it at parties in front of your kids, and so they'll hate you. Remember, what's green and healthy and sings nothing but a hound dog? Elvis Parsley.
I think that you should have a couple of those lined up as like palate cleansers in between the text messages I show, so that people don't completely jump off the bridge. You know what I mean?
All right. Well, that's for everybody. I just want to leave people with something very valuable. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Laughter is good like medicine, my friend.
It
I love
sure
you.
is.
Denver
Love
Riggleman,
it.
everybody. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock on the solemn January 6th.
All right, guys. I'll see you. Bye. Is it still on?
Oh my God. We love Denver. Thank you for everyone who hung out with us for the last hour. I hope you learned something. I hope you were inspired by some of it. Shout out to all of the folks who are pushing the heart button. I've been told that helps the algo. So thank you guys for that. I'm really trying to build the uncompromised community here. Shout out to Marcus Flowers. Marcus, I got to get you on. We'll get you on this week. And plus, I will call you. And thank you to everyone who are some of the new paid subscribers who have joined. I appreciate you so much. Thank you very much. There will be more of these conversations, especially as we're going into this midterm election. And of course, you guys know that the Seneca Project is my organization. This is one of my hats from the Seneca Project, American Girls Never Back Down. If you are not familiar with Seneca, please go and check us out. We are a women-led political action committee messaging organization. We're out here trying to get people to understand why they should care. So we're women and democracy focused. So please go check out the Seneca Project as well. So just wanted to say thank you to all of you, and we'll see you tomorrow with Denver. And on Wednesday, I will be doing a Uncompromised Live with Elise Labott, who is a longtime foreign affairs and defense reporter who is on here on Substack as well. We're going to be talking some more Venezuela and some foreign policy. So that will be the next live for Uncompromised. Will be Wednesday at noon. Mark your calendars. I will send out an invite. Thank you, guys.